Good morning, everyone. My name is Kadir from Cisco. I've been with Cisco 6 years, and within these 6 years, for the last 3 years, I've been living in Dubai. But unfortunately, I don't speak Arabic, so I'm sorry about that. I'm from Turkey originally. Today, I really want to focus on some of the approaches that we actually executed in some of the government agencies within the last few years in Middle East, Africa, and also in Europe. So to start with, my agenda is going to be more about talking about like three main things. And with any transformation, really, you look at why you need this. Second, what needs to be done, and the third is usually how you're going to do this. So in the context of the digital transformation, I would like to focus on, of course, on the government side, but we see this in all industries. So at Cisco, we are partnering up with a school called IMD, which is based out of Switzerland. And we have a study going on, and it's a live study. So we've been going on this for the last couple of years. Now, as a company, as a vendor, as a technology vendor, of course, we are very proficient on the technology, on digitization, the technology side of it. But also, from IMD, we are getting the experience, especially from the business side, from the executive view. And then we combine this knowledge into a kind of like a report that is actually available on the internet. So you can search for it. It's called Digital Disruption. So what I want to highlight from this study is a couple of things. So within this study, we have worked with many different executives from different organizations all over the world, up to like 1,000 people. And these are business leaders globally. Also, we worked with some of these disruptive companies like Uber, Tesla, the ones very well known now in the market that we are using the gadgets or the cars or the others. And we try to understand what is really different that they are doing other than the normal, the things that we've been using for the longest time. So we see these disruptors coming up in the market in a very short amount of time and then disrupting the whole market. So what's really the secret of their approach? And also on top of this, of course, we've been running workshops and it's an ongoing study, like I said. So today we have companies or agencies that we go and do this study together to come up a report specifically for that organization. So within the study, it's a very interesting study. I would really appreciate if you take a look after, if you search for it. Within this study, we analyzed that, there are certain industries, of course, that are really impacted with this digital disruption, and these are more technology type of industries. If you look at telecommunications, technology service providers, the ones you see on the slide to the top part are the ones that are most impacted. And there are some industries in the bottom that they think they are not impacted as much, but the reality is different. You see here utilities companies or industry that's not impacted that much. But as you know, I mean, just a year or more than a year ago, Tesla came up with a home battery. In one night, the whole utilities companies are disrupted because the users, us, we can get the home battery, we can charge it off-peak hours. So all of a sudden, there's a big revenue impact on these companies. So this is changing again with the dynamics of the industries and the technology. And in the long run, obviously, the incumbent companies are going to have more troubles or more challenges. So I'll just give you a brief overview of like some of the areas why these disruptor companies are doing this very successfully. There are three areas that we need to look at for any new technology. These are the cost value, the experience value, and the platform value. So if you are coming up with a new application, with a new tool, with a new gadget, you need to look at these three, and you need to really catch all these three at the same time. If you are really good at one, usually that's not going to disrupt as much as the others. Just take the example of Uber here. The cost value, the experience value, and the platform value. Cost is very transparent. There is no hidden cost. Experience, I mean, you can see who's going to pick up you, and you see all the cars, all the ratings with the drivers. And the platform value, it's very simple. You can actually have APIs and other things that can attach. It's similar for other good examples. So from government perspective, I think what we are trying to say is you need to actually apply the same mentality when you are coming with a new service. So if you can provide all these three at the same time to your citizens, to your end users, then your service will be definitely disruptive and it's going to actually get the impact that you're looking for. And then if you look at how you can do this, as Cisco, we help our customers and companies in three ways. I think we are not saying anything different than what Jad was saying in his presentation. It's all about like the hyper-awareness of the environment, informed decision-making, which is the data and business insight, and the fast execution. So it's a different way of putting it, but eventually it's the same. And if you look at the overall digital vortex, as I said, the more you are getting into the center of it, then you are more into the digital transformation disruption area. So the book is called Digital Vortex, the study. Like I said, you can definitely take a look at it. Now, I just want to take you there from that digital vortex and then put you, yourself, as individuals, all of us, into this slide, which just came up from Gartner. I'll let you read a little bit, but I think it's a very good summary of how the market is changing and where we are going. And for some industries, for some areas, this is actually sooner than 2021. So we are not going to build systems anymore. We are actually providing, we're going to solve business problems. We have to focus on services. We don't have to focus on the technology, the solutions itself. This is the application, this is what. You just need to look at the services. And then you are not managing one data center only. I mean, we are getting into the age of like cloud, right? And we are already in it. Hybrid IT is the reality. So as Cisco, of course, traditionally we design internet, we design network, we design big data centers for our customers. But we also see it's becoming hybrid. So now even big agencies, big governments, they are looking at their own data center, but also they are looking at the public cloud services from Microsoft, from Amazon, from Google, from everywhere. And the more critical question is, are you ready for this? So you need to be able to provide services on this type of infrastructure or systems and get ready for it as a person, as an individual as well. And with the engagements that I have done within the region, I think everybody can definitely say this, but the number one problem we see is about digital skills, digital roles. Because some of the roles in your organizations are changing, and do you have the talent or skill set that is ready for this kind of change? That's also very important individually. And automation, orchestration in the sense of technology is becoming more critical. And one of the government agencies' engagement that we were doing, they were working on a government service bus, which is basically tying all the different data within different government agencies into one area. And they are working on rapid application deployment type of technologies. So coding, or at least like knowledge about like software is becoming very critical. And then analytics is definitely in every area as making decisions, understanding the data, learning from all that data, learning from previous mistakes and all that. So we need to combine them together. So I don't have a definition of my job in 3-4 years later, because to be honest, what I'm doing today, definitely 5 years ago, I wasn't anticipating, but things are changing in our own companies as well as in your own organizations. So with this, what's digital transformation? From us, it's simple just to say the use of technology to really improve the performance. So you can define it in different ways. So at Cisco, as we are focusing on the government, e-government transformation, we are also providing solutions for cities, for digitization of cities, so smart cities, connected governments and all that. And within the city, as you know, there's so many different elements that you can power with the digitization, and you can easily get, by harnessing this digitization, fully connected environment. But that's a different topic for today, because I think that part is more technical. Maybe we need to talk more with the municipalities and the others. I want to focus more on certain other things. This also came up just recently, Internet of Things or Internet of Everything from IDC. If you look at, these are the predictions for 2018. and further, of course, till 2021. If you look at what are the main takeaways from this, number one is security, and I guess everybody will agree with that, especially with the cyber security, with the incidents of ransomware and all the other security incidents going on. Security is a major element. And we also saw this in our engagements with the governments. Governments are also going towards maybe coming up with some SOCs, the Security Operations Centers, combining their efforts with their armies or depending on the country, depending on the situation. So more going towards like having a more framework, like a holistic framework for security. And the IoT is a reality now. If we're going to digitize everything, if we're going to have these smart cities, smart connected environments, it's also a number one topic to look at. But there are other things, as we just touch base. The analytics is another one here in this, if you look at it. And then it's about like services, the digital twins, and many other things. So you can definitely take a look on the IDC website. Another one that I want to touch base is the hype cycle from Gartner. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but it's also a good way to look at, depending on your area of expertise or responsibility, where the technology and the new inventions, I would say, or new technologies are coming or going to. Now, in this chart, what you need to look at is the beginning slope is about like the new stuff that's coming up. And it's usually like the first cycle of investment in the startups and all that. When it goes to the top, usually when after the first stop, and which is called as like peak of the second peak, the first peak, sorry, peak of the expectations, it's usually coming down with a negative perception in the market. That's what usually happens. And then it comes to a kind of like a second rise where it's becoming more standardized. And if you look at Internet of Things, there's many things happening over there, but some of the stuff that's now being standardized are becoming part of our lives. Similarly for cloud computing. Prior to Cisco, I was working for Microsoft, and by the time I was leaving, I think it was just the time around like Office 365 and Azure was coming up. But at that time, almost like 6 years ago, it wasn't like this, of course. Today, nobody will argue that infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service is the way to go. Because at that time, I mean, 6 years ago, it's not a long time, but people are still doing things on their own. So this is also very interesting to see how those technologies are coming up. And today, maybe you are thinking for a new technology, it's too early, but you can maybe check this with how Gartner is seeing this. I just wanted to give you a feel from this. So in our case, what we see, and this is maybe more technology related, but what we see is your technology department or agencies or your IT is really under big pressure. I mean, digital transformation will happen with the technology, of course. So IT or your agency who's responsible for technology is definitely your key partner. But they are under big pressure because there's so many technology changes happening, new things coming up. At the same time, you are on the business side, you are on the agency side, let's say, you are also expecting many things from them. So they need to transform themselves. But how is this going to happen? That's the main question. And that's really how we want to help your organizations. We have done it in Kuwait, we have done it in other countries in the region, but we can continue doing it in Kuwait with your organization as well. So I want to explain you what we are doing within this approach. So Gartner called this one-page strategy. And they think, you know, if you're a private company, obviously you have a business strategy and you want to achieve certain things with your business. Similarly, if you're a government agency, you have a strategy and you want to achieve certain services with your citizens. Now, as the IT department or technology department, the key part is how can you align your strategy with the business strategy? Those are the three questions that you need to ask yourselves. We think the answer to this for your IT department or technology department is to become IT as a service organization. So what does that mean? What it means is, traditionally, if you look at your IT department, it was more about like solutions. But now, as we said, we just saw on that slide, it's about services. So it needs to be more oriented to services. What kind of services I'm going to provide to my end users. And it needs to be like clear boundaries for the IT. Metrics need to be based on business strategy, things like that. So for this, we need a new approach. And I want to talk about the approach a little bit here. But before doing that, I want to give you a couple of lessons learned from our side when we did this with many different customers. Now, the first lesson learned, and you can apply this to your projects as well, I guess, is you need to think big. You can't really try to put a strategy together just looking in your small area. You need to really think about your agency or your whichever area you're working at. Think big as like, what's the vision? Where I am going to go? What do I need to do? And then the second part is starting small. So it's a contradiction maybe, but you need to think big, but you need to start small, because we saw now, I also led the services sales for Cisco for a couple of years. In the old days, I think we were planning projects like 2 years, 3 years projects. I don't think anybody now is planning 2 years long project. I mean, depending on the project type, of course, but on the technology side, what I mean is we are now looking more, customers are going for like agile approach, which is more like monthly or maximum maybe 6 weeks type of planning. And this is for a reason, because technology is changing very, very quickly. And we need to be able to apply those changes if our needs are changing. I'll give you an example. In UAE, we have started a project a few years ago for a government cloud. And by the time, I mean, at the end of the first year, the requirements for the customer changed drastically. So if you plan like a 3 years project within this, you are in big trouble. So that's why we are learning, one of the learnings is think big, but also start small, which is about like dividing into small chunks that you can actually bite. And then the third one is, some call this fail fast, depending on the culture. Some call succeed fast, but at the end of the day, it's about trying and seeing the result in a quick way. Now, based on this, we have this IT transformation approach at Cisco, which is three-phase approach. It is called, the first phase is called Envision, which is more like understanding your current environment, understanding your motivation about transformation, your digital transformation roadmap, and then coming up with a report. And then co-creation is the second phase, which is more about doing something together based on the report, based on the findings in the report, and achieving success so that we can go for the bigger project. So this is all about it. So thinking big is about like getting current situation, understanding your environment, and then putting a strategy together. Second part is about co-creation, which is taking some initiatives from that report and then applying it, and then the third one is realizing it. So I'll just go a little bit deeper on this, because I think Jad also mentioned it's about three different dynamics here: people, process, and technology. So any digital transformation project or goal will only happen if you actually take all these into into your solution. So business drivers is about people, is about your people, your business, your agency goals. It's about that. So when we do this at government agencies, we see how agencies work together, and we question things around like the partnership between IT and the agencies or ministries. Second is about one of the topics that also Jad talked about, which is data. How do you own data? I mean, today you have huge data, and government big data is also a hot topic where the governments are looking at, but are you really using that data to make some informed business decisions? That's really the key. And that's one of the drivers we see for this transformation happening. You can do it in different ways. Like I said, some governments are using the enterprise service bus, some governments are working on big data, and all the intention is to get those ministers or the high officials to make decisions based on data. So that's very critical. The third one is about innovation and learning. So today, it's a major issue or challenge in every organization, including organizations like us, because some of our people are so busy, we don't have a proper learning path or career development path. So this is very critical for your people as well. One of the conversation topics, even here in Kuwait, when we were having these discussions about e-government, government cloud, is to save jobs of people, because people are afraid if everything will be automated, what am I going to do? Where is my job, and what will I do? So this is very important, the innovation and learning, and providing your people the platform to do this when you are automating and changing certain things, because then you can have the skill set also ready for the next one. Customer experience is definitely, it's about citizen experience in the government case, but also in organizations, private organizations, it's about the end customer. Workforce experience, another critical area, which is you yourself. So what's your experience with your agency providing you the technology or the platform to do your job? So and the risk, of course, security, we mentioned it's becoming more critical. So these are the type of things that you need to look at when you are trying to drive a change and transformation in your organization. So this is very critical to understand. Then comes the operating model. Now, this is maybe more technical, but for the digital transformation to happen, as we say, we need to understand this part as well. And what we do as Cisco, we try to understand your organization in different ways. So we need to understand the governance model, how you govern IT or technology. Meaning, for instance, if I go talk to the IT manager and then go to talk to the SME, the subject matter expert for network or server, do they have the same vision? Do they have the same strategy or execution? Are you measuring in the right way? These are very critical to make sure from the very top all the way to the bottom, they are all matched. And certain things around like using the TOGAF type of architecture models, ITIL type of the management of your IT policies, COBIT type of like governance, these are very critical, but every organization has their own, they have their own dynamics and their own way of doing things. But it's very important to follow some of the frameworks. So we also look at those. And then in government, maybe it's not making so much sense in certain countries, but financing of these is also critical. So when you are providing shared services, are you charging back this? Or you're going to put a model for this? So these are the type of things you need to look at. Then comes the technology, which is probably considerably easier part to look at as like the roadmap. What's happening in the next few years, short term, mid term, long term. When we combine all this data, we come up with initiatives, and that's what we have done with Kate and with Citra here in Kuwait as well. And what we did is we came up with such an infographic as like, this is your next maybe 2-3 years roadmap that you can actually follow up on certain things. And if you look at all this data is actually coming from basically from your own people. So this is your data, this is your roadmap that you need to follow. And some of the learnings from the engagements within the region, like I said, is it's about people, the skills, roles, how you actually allow people to develop themselves. It's about technology as well, but it's more about like putting together a roadmap properly, because if you don't have all set in your mind, then it's very difficult because you might be jumping in different solutions. And as to be honest, every vendor like us, like Microsoft, Cisco, IBM, all the others, Oracle, we all have digital transformation in our mind, but you really need to put together your own strategy together. So this is how we try to help our customers and government agencies around the world. So these are some of the examples. As I said, we have done this in Kuwait, we have done this in Netherlands, Slovenia, and also Poland, but also many other customers. And of course, every agency, every government is different, but at the end of the day, when it comes to the transformation for technology, certain things are common. And happy to actually explore more. If your organization needs such an engagement, please let me know. And I think I'll leave you with this quote. which is about, for the 21st century, it's not about just reading and writing, but it's about just learning, unlearning what you know, and then learn the new way of doing things. So I think that's probably applying for all of us. Thank you very much.